Ed Espinoza. I'm a media consultant. Progress Texas stands up for progressive values in Texas. They put the progressive side of the story into the news. All we ever hear about is gloom and doom and Republican shit. Progress Texas is out there talking about the other side of the story that so many people in this state believe in. Here's the thing, right? Republicans run everything and they think they can do whatever they want, and oftentimes it definitely feels like that. But we are the one thing that annoys the shit out of them. And if you can't win, man, it's so good to annoy them. Throw a wrench in their plans, stop them, slow them down. We have the power to do that, and we often do. So don't give that up. Why would you take that away from us? Why would you take that away from Republicans? They need needling like that. Yeah. We're the ones to do it. We're the ones we've been waiting for to do the mischief.
Who are they without us?
Exactly.
It's Tuesday, January 21st, 2025, and this is the Progress Texas Daily Dispatch, rapid response on the breaking news stories Texas progressives need to know. I'm Chris Mosier. So, did you watch the inauguration? It's not easy to tear your eyes away from a train wreck, so a great many of you did watch it live. For those of us who didn't, that includes me, I was at H-E-B, enjoying the company of hundreds of people, a lot more preoccupied with the approaching winter storm than anything else. The big moments have percolated through the national consciousness, particularly Rich Trump's failure to place his hand upon the Bible offered to him as he took the oath of office. Pretty sure that's a first. And a super practical fashion choice by returning First Lady Melania Trump and that hat with a brim just wide enough to block Trump's forehead and prevent her husband's attempt at a kiss from actually making a landing. As progressives, we're going to have to maintain our vigilance. For the more fun moments, we're going to need all the levity we can get. It's important to recall that we do still have a court system, if an imperfect and compromised one, in place against Trump's wildest whims, expressed already in that slew of executive orders he signed yesterday, of which the Associated Press has a good initial rundown. For example, it's going to take more than an Inauguration Day executive order to sweep away the 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, the one referring to birthright citizenship, this whole Gulf of America business. The entire rest of the world gets to weigh in on that one. One move that does have real-world effects of concern is the pardoning of about 1,500 people convicted for a wide variety of crimes in relation to the January 6, 2021 uprising at the U.S. Capitol that Trump himself, of course, provoked. That amounts to the releasing into our society of a large number of people who were highly radicalized back then, and several of whom have been further hardened by life in prison now. It's going to be important to learn as much as possible about those who will be returning to Texas and to remind ourselves that these pardons merely remove the punishment for crimes committed, not the fact that they were committed, nor do they offer legal protection for future crimes. Trump has also ordered the halting of federal inquiries against his supporters, claiming to end the so-called weaponization of federal law enforcement, but of course doing so only for his own friends so far. Bringing it back to Texas, one piece of news in the midst of the maelstrom yesterday landed most cruelly on Texas progressives. That's the passing of Cecile Richards, the daughter of Ann Richards, and a lifelong progressive activist. Cecile was disciplined at school as a ninth grader for her role in a protest against the Vietnam War. Her career included over a decade as president of the Planned Parenthood Federation of America and president of the Planned Parenthood Action Fund from 2006 to 2018. Richards made her last nationwide public appearance as one of the speakers among the Texas delegation at the Democratic National Convention. What a treat it was to see her there. She died yesterday at her home, surrounded by loved ones at the age of 67 following a battle against brain cancer. At this moment, when progressives need inspiration, I highly recommend Cecile Richards' memoir, Make Trouble, Standing Up, Speaking Out, and Finding the Courage to Lead. That courage will serve us well at this moment, and amplifying that courage in each of our hearts is the tribute that Cecile Richards would have wanted. One memorable line from that book, quote, "Once you start questioning authority, it's hard to stop," unquote, and amen, and Godspeed, and thank you, Cecile Richards, for providing such an amazing example of activism and advocacy. See a great remembrance from Texas Politico Jeff Rotkoff in the show notes. Activity begins immediately on the border here in Texas. Adam Fullerton at Fox 26 in Houston says Governor Abbott posted video yesterday of additional buoys being deployed in the Rio Grande, notably at a moment when actual crossings have slowed to a trickle, and talk at the Capitol has been referring to a drawdown on the years-long Operation Lone Star cosplay. Alejandro Serrano at the Texas Tribune says one of the governor's special advisors on border matters, retired U.S. Border Patrol agent Mike Banks, has been picked by Donald Trump to serve as head of that agency. One interesting note regarding Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick we want to mention. We believe for the first time, Patrick has acknowledged that the almost blanket ban on abortion in Texas should be clarified for doctors who have become wary of the limits it places on life-saving maternal medicine. Bayless Wagner at the Austin American-Statesman says Patrick said in an interview with WFAA in Dallas recently, when asked whether he expected any significant legislation on abortion to arise in the 89th legislature, that, quote, "I do think that we need to clarify any language so that doctors are not in fear of being penalized if they think the life of the mother is at risk," unquote. We'll be watching that for sure. And so a new era begins, or does it? There can be no doubt that between now and the 2026 midterm elections, we are in for a massive challenge coming from multiple fronts. First, we can absolutely count on Donald Trump as president to do all he can to stretch the legal boundaries of the power of the executive branch. He's already charged right out of the gate with that. This morning feels a little like the morning after the election, in which we progressive folks must remind ourselves that we are not wrong and we are not alone, not by a long shot. As Trump takes office, he does so on the power of the votes of about 77.3 million Americans. Yes, he won the popular vote, but only by about 1.5% over Kamala Harris's take, nowhere near the sweeping mandate they'd have us believe. Balance that against the rest of our country's citizenry of 320 million, roughly 232,700,000 U.S. citizens did not vote for Donald Trump, about 76% of us. Here in Texas, just under 6.4 million voted for him, while 24.9 million did not, only a slightly smaller 74%. And a great many of the people who did vote for Donald Trump did so on practical economic reasoning, the price of eggs, the price of housing, the job market. All of these are factors that are now Donald Trump's to improve or to neglect. A great many Texans who voted for Donald Trump in 2024 are ours to persuade for future elections, should Donald Trump do another terrible job at the helm. The Texas Politics Project at UT Austin has continued their work beyond the election and into this interesting new era, and their latest poll shows a distinct lack of zeal, fervor, or even supercharged interest from the Texas electorate in general. They asked voters an open-ended question lately on what they thought the Texas legislature's top priority should be. Left to come up with their own single answer, immigration and border security issues were the most frequent responses, but those only came from 22% of respondents, followed by economic concerns, but only from 16%. The third most common answer, at 14%, I don't know. Abortion, crime, property taxes, healthcare each drew less than 5%. There are many, many votes out there for progressives to win with smart messaging and policy ideas. And by the way, here's a moment to remind ourselves that our positions should be based on ethics and facts, not on political blood sport. We should not, in fact, root for President Trump to fail out of spite, for our country to suffer for our future electoral advantage. We're now, frankly, in a position of the vigilant defense of our country's soul, our ethics, our norms, what's right, what's wrong, what's legal, what's not, and why. And speaking of facts, that job's clearly harder as well, with Trump's posse of social media billionaires thumbing the scale, including apparently on TikTok now. It's on each of us to be our own fact checkers, as we've said many times, properly compartmentalizing culture war agitation from the right and focusing clearly on actual policy. We got to keep it real. At a moment when that's more difficult than ever for us at Progress Texas, we renew our commitment to exactly that, keeping it real, and we hope you'll stick with us in that effort. Our funding is rarely sufficient for us to plan very far ahead, but the conservative disinformation machine we're talking about has no such obstacle. They've got funding from oil billionaires, tech billionaires, and religious right-wing activist groups. Our regular everyday listeners form the backbone of our funding here at Progress Texas. If that's you, we could use your support as a monthly contributor. No amount is too small. Go to progresstexas.org/donate. Thanks to Jamie Wood, Nancy Daniels, and DK Wilkerson, all three of whom are on the team. We appreciate all of you. While you're at the website, make sure and grab the merch to match your progressive values at our web store. Y'all means all, Revolution, and our most popular Humans Against Ted Cruz t-shirts all await you there, all union printed right here in Texas, and lots more, all at progresstexas.org. That's the Progress Texas Daily Dispatch for this Tuesday, January 21st. 2025. Links to all these original stories can be found in our show notes. Progress Texas is a nonprofit rapid response media organization promoting progressive messages and actions. While campaigns come and go, we're the permanent home for progressive media and action in the Lone Star State. I'm Chris Mosier. Thanks for listening. Have a great day. Stay warm out there. We'll see you again tomorrow morning.